Montana, and hello world. Chris Hislop from the Montana World Affairs Council. Welcome to another event in our International Careers Week. If you're interested in the world and an international career, this is definitely the place to be this week. We have a dizzying array of international experts across an extraordinary range of professions and experience who are helping us answer a question we get all the time as we work in Montana's schools and communities. And that question to our distinguished speakers is often, how did you get the job that you are doing now? And so in order to satisfy that curiosity amongst high school students and university students here in Montana, we've put together this week's International Careers Week. We kicked off with the Director of Commerce, Scott Osterman, in our state's capital, Helena. We then met with Craig Kangemi from Qatar Foundation International, talking about nonprofits and working internationally in the Arabic world. And we've got more to come. Before I introduce our distinguished guest today, I'd like to say quick thanks to the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation, Allegiance, First Interstate Bank, Trail West Bank, QFI, High Stakes Foundation, and Longview Foundation. They help us bring this and many more programs to you. For those people who are participating in this event, I'd be grateful if you kept your microphones on mute. And when you have questions to our guest, I don't want to jump in quite yet, please chat them in. I'll curate those questions as we go ahead. So now let me introduce our very distinguished guest. I'm honored to welcome General Wesley Clark. He's a businessman, educator, writer, and commentator who serves as chairman and CEO of Wesley K. Clark and Associates, a strategic consulting firm. He retired as a four-star general after 38 years in the United States Army, having served in his last assignments as commander of U.S. Southern Command and then as commander of U.S. European Command, Supreme Allied Commander Europe. He graduated first in his class at West Point and completed degrees in philosophy, politics, economics at Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. He worked with Ambassador Richard Holbrooke in the Dayton Peace process, where he helped write and negotiate significant portions of the 1995 Dayton Peace Agreement. In his final assignment as Supreme Allied Commander Europe, he led NATO forces to victory in Operation Allied Force, a 78-day air campaign backed by ground invasion planning and a diplomatic process, saving 1.5 million Albanians from ethnic cleansing. His awards include the Presidential Medal of Freedom, Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart. In 2019, General Clark founded Renew America Together, a nonprofit organization designed to promote and achieve greater common ground in America by reducing partisan division and gridlock. General Clark, thank you so much for joining us here once again. Of course, those of you who know us know that General Clark came to Montana last spring together with Governor Mark Rasco to talk to us a little bit about what he's doing in Renew America Together. But we've got lots to talk about today, General. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. And actually, it's tonight where I am. I'm in Athens, Greece, and I landed in a snowstorm, believe it or not. I know when you think about Greece, you think about Homer and Helen of Troy and men in togas and so forth. It's cold. It's just above freezing. I hope, with that armor on and stuff, they had some coats over it, because this is pretty tough weather. It's not what you think of Greece as.
Well, we empathize with you, General, here in Montana. We know we've just come out of a cold spell, but the snow is coming down. Skiing is great conditions. So maybe when you're done there, why not come over here? You'll be ready and you can hit the slopes with us. But General, Montana enjoys a very important distinction. We have more men and women in active military service per capita than any other state in the United States. It's a long and proud tradition here in Montana, one that we're very familiar with. And we were hoping, General, that you might give us a little more insight from your own, not only your own very distinguished career, but in the here and now, and knowing that the United States military is a much evolving organization requiring different people with different skills. And we have a lot of people here in Montana who would like to hear from you kind of what does that mean? And what does your career tell you about looking at the U.S. military as a career?
Well, I would just like to say to you all in Montana, especially the high school students here, the Army is just a great way to begin your life as an adult. And nothing wrong with the Air Force, Navy, Marines, they're good too. But I went Army. You know, when I was a kid growing up in Arkansas, it's a lot like Montana. There's a lot of outdoor activity and so forth. I tried to get a job after school, and in the summer working in an office, I discovered I couldn't do it. I just didn't like it. I wanted to be outdoors. I wanted to be with people. I wanted leadership. I went to West Point. I thought it was a great college education. It was fun. I got to qualify with a rifle, got to fire a machine gun, got to drive and gun a tank as a cadet. It was just really fun. And I stayed with the Army for the next 34 years after I graduated because I thought it was interesting. I thought there were wonderful people there, people I respected, people I honored, people I could learn from. It was a great family environment, and it was something really important for the country. So I think it's a great career path. And I would encourage each and every one of you to explore it and take it seriously. You're not going to be a billionaire, but money's not everything. In the Army, you're going to get a good living, but more importantly, you're going to do something that's really important and really satisfying with some of the very best people in the world. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I was able to do in my service. Of course, I'm a civilian now, but I still look back and talk to my friends who I served with, people I served with years and years and years ago. Great memories, great friends, just a real comradeship that I don't think you could find anywhere in the business community. So that's what happened to me. And you know, if you stay and you enjoy it, you're putting your heart and soul into it, like anything, probably going to be pretty good. In basketball and in Arkansas, we're really believers in our Arkansas Razorback basketball team. But if they don't put their heart and soul into shooting free throws, we're not going to win any more basketball games. I mean, it's everything in life is about your sense of commitment. Does it really matter to you? Are you willing to give it 100%? And if you do that in service of the United States of America, I guarantee you'll have a great career. The country will be better for it, and you'll be very satisfied.
And General, a lot of the students who are watching and will be watching this in a recording have a secondary interest in the world and the international life. Can you connect for them a career or life or some time spent in the U.S. military and the world?
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons I did choose to go to the Army. When I was a young man growing up, we were challenged by what was then the Soviet Union. And the leader of the Soviet Union actually went to a farm in Iowa when I was in junior high school and threatened to destroy America. It was so painful. And they launched rockets that could, for the first time, actually a rocket could be fired from the Soviet Union, from Russia, and hit the United States in 20 minutes with a nuclear warhead. It was a big eye-opening period. A lot of us were concerned about national security, and that contributed to my desire to go to West Point. I think you all today are facing the very similar time of challenge for this country. We've got two formidable adversaries, Russia, which is right now engaging in the most brutal war in Europe in 75 years, trying to overrun and eradicate a nation of 40 million people. It's inconceivable that they would do this. We couldn't imagine they would do it, but they're doing it. Hundreds of thousands of people have died in this war. Of course, the United States is actively supporting the Ukrainians. They're fighting for freedom and for the survival of their culture, their language, and themselves. But Russia's leader, Vladimir Putin, shows no mercy. So this is a fight that's going to go on. And then there's China. China we're not at war with. In fact, they're one of our largest trading partners and vice versa. And they hold a lot of money in the American. But the truth is that they don't exactly like American leadership. They would like to be the leaders of the world. They like to shape it in their fashion. And they're building up their military just to make sure we get it. Now you had on Montana, if you looked in the sky last week, you might have been one of the people that could look up there and see that balloon. Well, okay, we shot it down, but it was a real challenge to the United States by China. It was like, I'm looking at you, I got you. It was a deliberate sort of provocation by some in China. We don't know if it was the president or just people in his military who wanted to send us a tough signal. Okay, they did. We got it. We know that this is a nation 4 times more populous than the United States. It's a nation that's rapidly developed. It's got more ships in its Navy than we do. It's got missiles that can strike our aircraft carriers. It may want to invade the very strategic island of Taiwan. And we've said we're going to defend Taiwan. So a confrontation could loom. So we'd be facing really a challenge in NATO across the Atlantic and across the Pacific, a challenge from China. That's the world that you're moving into. We can't ignore it. We can't duck it. We can't pretend it's not there. That's what you're going to go into your young adulthood living with.
General Clark, one of the many interesting aspects of your career was, of course, as Supreme Allied Commander Europe and your work with NATO. And it strikes me as, that, of course, is a position where you are having to deal with people from different countries, different cultures, different points of view, which I think is a common theme here for International Careers Week. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience at kind of intercultural communications? What is it? Why is it important?
Well, I think there's just a lot to learn from other people who have different perspectives. And it's also a lot of fun to learn it. And I started early. When I was a cadet at West Point, I learned to speak Russian. And so we actually traveled to the Soviet Union for 10 days and met our adversaries over there. I went to Oxford and got the British experience and traveled on the continent. And so I early started this, and then you can do this too. I think when you meet people your own age, when you're a young person and you realize people are just as smart as you are, they're just as serious or just as much fun, they're just as talented, and you have to show them respect in order to get respect. And I think that's really what it's about in terms of working abroad. Doesn't matter what country they're from. I do a lot of work in Africa today. I can tell you Africa has changed dramatically since my first visits there. There are some really well-educated, smart people working in government in Africa. And in the old system, the white Bwana would come down there and tell them what to do and make money and take it away. That's not happening in Africa anymore. That's a continent that's going to have 2.5 billion people in 20 years. 2.5 billion people. It's going to be the center of growth for the world. And they're very serious about it. They've got tremendous mineral wealth. They are affected by climate change. They're the target of both Russia and China. And yet they're struggling democracies. And I hope the United States will do more to help them other than just striking and killing terrorists over there. But we've got a major challenge there. And so when you look at it, it is all about intercultural communications. You can't be in business, certainly can't be in the military, if you can't deal with people with diverse attitudes and beliefs. It's just part of it. And I've grown to know it and to have the greatest respect for people from all over the world and all kinds of cultures.
General, the modern American military is a much evolved institution, a learning institution, a dynamic institution. And that's evolved over time. It's in a certain place now, and it will be in a different place in the future as an evolving institution. Could you share with the students what are the kinds of skills or characteristics that the military looks for in people who want to join?
Well, we're looking for people who want to grow and develop personally. We're not looking for somebody to join just because you like guns. I mean, yes, it is about guns to some extent. And yeah, you're going to have to qualify with a rifle. But this is not a gun-toting society. This is a society that is an organization. It's a living, learning, as our moderator said, it's a learning organization. And so when you come in, you got to be prepared to learn. You got to dig in. You got to learn your skills as a soldier. That could be in the medical field. It could be in communications, cryptography. It could be in automotive maintenance or chemical warfare, or it could be simply in learning the mathematics of artillery or air defense. You got to learn it. Then you have to learn leadership. You have to learn the systems, how people get promoted, how people are paid, and then you've got to learn the future, what you're going to do with your skills in that organization. So it's a commitment to a lifetime of learning. I think that's the best way to put it. I talk to my friends in the civilian sector, and so many of them, they start out in their, I know this is going to be hard for the students, but life is long, okay? I mean, 4 years of college in front of you may seem like it's forever, but it goes just like that. And you'd be surprised, pretty soon you'll be in your 20s. And I know so many people in their 20s who have such high expectations and they think the world's just going to open up in front of them. And then they get stuck one way or another. They're in a job, they're married, they can't move, they can't grow, they don't have time to get additional education. There's a health problem in the family. And then before they know it, they're in their late 30s, and then that's what they're going to be. In the military, you're in an organization that's going to ask you to grow, to move, to develop, to be more than you thought you could be. And so it's a day-to-day challenge. It's a way of becoming something more than you ever imagined you could be. I never imagined what I would be doing when I was a high school kid wanting to go to West Point and learn about the Army. And I went all over. I saw Southeast Asia, Central America. I saw Europe, saw Africa, raised a family, and I learned more at every stage. I never felt like I was plateaued out. I never got up in the morning saying, oh, it's so boring here. I just can't wait till the weekend so I can go hunting and fishing. Every day had its own interest. And I think, when you actually get into life, you want something that's interesting, not something where you say, oh God, I got to go to the office again, or, oh, I'm so tired of punching that stuff into a computer every hour. You want something that's going to challenge you, grow you. And most of us want to be with other people. I mean, let's face it. People are social. And the thing I loved about the Army was the diversity of people in it, the leadership, the friendship, the respect, the joining together with a common purpose. It was wonderful.
I'm just going to remind our participants, you're very welcome to chat in questions to General Clark if you like. I'm very happy to talk with the General myself, but maybe you have some questions, please do so. General, you've also, following your career in the military, have a very distinguished, shall we call it a post-military career. Could you maybe speak a little bit about how the military prepared you and how it generally can prepare people following their military service? Because I think our society benefits hugely from a large population of people who have served. So what is it that the military does for these people so that they succeed following their service?
Well, I think, honestly, the most important thing the military does for you is helps you become competent and reliable. You can't be in a large organization and show up late every day. When people are depending on you, you got to know what you're going to do before you show up. You got to know what you're going to say before you open your mouth. You got to have a plan before you go into the office. And a career of doing that, it becomes second nature. And also being responsible. When you make a decision, it's your responsibility. You did it. No ducking it. No running away from it. And in the military in particular, we put a high degree of value on integrity, on being honest, on being candid, on speaking the truth. No fudging, no lying, no blaming everybody else on it. No, you take the responsibility. And as you go up in rank and responsibility, that becomes increasingly challenging and interesting. and you learn to deal with it. That's why employers seek military veterans in their businesses, because they know they have integrity, they know they're responsible, they know they can be counted on to get the job done. And I think it's a special mark of distinction when you're served honorably and come out as a veteran. I really do, because I know so many people in business say, I just want to hire some veterans here. Who can you find for me? Because you've got it, you've proven your ability at that point. And there's no greater leadership training academy than the United States Armed Forces. I can tell you that. Now, I'm not going to tell you everybody's a great leader in there. They're not, but they're trying to be. And there's a learning process for that too. Most of us, are not natural leaders. I mean, sure, there are a few Tom Brady's in the military. They look like a leader. They're out there. They stay with it, and they win. But most of us are people who have learned, studied it, and grown with it, and we're doing our part. And that's what the Army expects.
General, we're getting some questions from one of our classrooms now. So let me ask you question one, and I'm going to maybe expand on this a bit. Have you been to every continent? But let me add by asking you, General, could you also share with us maybe some of your favorite places in the world or places that stand out for you?
Yeah. Well, I haven't been yet to Antarctica. So that would stand out if I went there, but there hasn't been any reason to go there other than tourism. I don't have any business there, and I didn't. We don't really have any U.S. military activities there. But other than that, I've pretty much been all over, except for India and Pakistan. Those are the two countries I've never been in. My favorite place was Panama. Actually, we were there for a year. I was the last commander who lived in the Panama Canal zone. In 1903, the Panama Canal zone was created out of the new state of Panama. And then President Theodore Roosevelt authorized the United States to build the canal. The French had tried it earlier. They didn't succeed. Lots of people died. There were a lot of mosquitoes. There was yellow fever. It was just hard, miserable work. And it looks like on a map, just a little sliver of ground, but boy, with all the rain and with the mud and the mudslides, and it was tough. We finally finished it in 1914 and connected the Atlantic and the Pacific. So I was the last of the U.S. generals to live there when it was actually under the control of the U.S. government. We turned it back to the Panamanians, but they were so nice to us, and we traveled all over Latin America. We went to every country. I met the leadership there, the military, the political. We saw the culture. We ate the food. We went to La Paz, Bolivia, got off the airplane. Airfield is at 13,000 feet. So the oxygen masks drop when the door is open. And when you get off the plane, you're like a little bit dizzy because suddenly there's not enough oxygen. And people said, nobody goes back to visit La Paz twice. We were in the jungle in Brazil. We were in the mountains in Patagonia. It's just been, it was really interesting. Latin America is such an interesting place. And it is going to be more and more important for America's future, not just because immigrants come from Central America, but because there's so many resources down there. I enjoyed Europe in particular. I had a lot of friends there in every country, and every country's different, and they take a lot of pride in their cultures, and it was fun. I got to Africa a few times and was amazed. It's so dynamic in Africa. It's with every year, more Africans come back from college abroad or teach and go through their own schooling systems and their own universities. And, with the internet today and worldwide communications, well, listen, you can get a good high school education in the middle of Africa if you've got internet. I mean, I'm sure it's not as good as you might get in Montana, but it's pretty darn good. And you can get into some great universities if you just study online. So there are no slouches over there now. They're smart, and it's really going well. I've been in the Middle East a few times. I was in Israel several times. Egypt, Jordan, had a wonderful helicopter ride up one year up through Jordan, and I was with the brother of the king of Jordan. And one of my favorite memories is I had dinner with the prime minister of Israel when I was a major in the Army. There were just three of us at his house for dinner. I was working in the White House at the time, and I asked him, I said, I'm a young, I'm a 31-year-old major, and you're an experienced soldier. This was Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin. Yeah. I asked him, I said, what's the most important lesson that as a winning general you could give me as a young officer? And he said, the most important quality is persistence. You have to make up your mind what you're going to do, and you have to stay with it, not get discouraged, not pull away, not change. And he gave me some examples from his career that had made a big difference in the history of Israel. So I was very taken with that.
General Clark, we have a question from a University of Montana student who is graduating in political science and international relations. The question is, what civilian sector roles do you recommend for someone looking to have the largest positive impact on both our country's and the world's security?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'll tell you a story, okay? After the Gulf War in 1991, a young Army captain came to see me, and he said, I won a Silver Star. I was a big hero in this battle. And I said, well, good. He said, well, I'm getting out because I want to be a civilian and I want to have moral impact. So he did get out, and he went to work on Capitol Hill as a staffer to a congressman. And he later came back in as a Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense in the Bush administration. I don't know where he is now, but if he'd stayed in, he'd have been a general. Most likely, he'd be commanding 20,000 troops or more, maybe more right now, and he'd be giving advice on what to do in Ukraine and China. Where he is right now, I'm not sure. So from the civilian side, you can sometimes get the appearance of senior staff leadership early, especially if you start by working for an influential congressman or senator and learn your stuff. And then you go to a think tank, and then you get your PhD, and then you get a teaching position around Washington, and you can work your way up. But it's one way to do it. But you should think hard about it, because if you really want to make a difference, put on the uniform. Let it say U.S. on your collar. After you've been in the fleet or with the Marines or Air Force or Army, then when you are a civilian policymaker, you have a special credibility. I don't mean to discourage you, but I just want to make sure you understand that even though the civilians are nominally in charge, they take the advice they have to from the uniformed military, because it's the uniformed military that's actually doing it. So just like in the case of the balloon shoot down, President Biden said, shoot that thing down right away. Yeah, but the problem was that balloon weighed several tons, and it would have scattered debris over who knows how much. And what was in the balloon, it was just a lot safer to jam the intelligence collection as best we could coming out of the balloon and wait for it to just clear the coastline so the debris would fall in the ocean, not hurt anybody. I think it was a smart move, and that was what the military told President Biden. That's the best way to do it, boss.
Good advice on that one. General, here's a question we've not had yet, and you can answer this maybe in several different ways, but to put it bluntly, it says, how much money do you make? But, it might be also, interesting to know if you are an active duty military personnel, if you join, what kind of entitlements and salary comes along with service in the military?
Well, it's pretty good salary, and you can look it up online, actually. If you look up the military pay tables, you'll see what you get as a private, as a sergeant, as a lieutenant, as a captain, as a major. And it's more than a living wage, let me put it that way. And obviously, the longer you stay in and the more rank you get, the more you make. And so you should look at it. I will tell you this, I think in general, it's better compensated than being a school teacher, and not as well compensated as being a high-priced lawyer or an IT entrepreneur. But here's the difference. When you're in the military, Uncle Sam is going to give you a paycheck every month. You're never going to starve. He's going to take care of your family. When you're married and have kids, you probably live in a house that he provides. Kids might go to a school that is looked after by the military. It's a pretty good living environment. And my family grew up that way. I'm proud of it, and I recommend it. It's not about money. You just got to have enough money to be able to do what you want in life. And this is a hard thing. And I just want to say this for the young people there, because there's an expectation today that, money's just falling out of the sky. These people go out and all you hear about is so-and-so's 26 years old and he just made $10 million or something like this. And boy, I could do that. But the truth is that very few people do that. And the world is full of frustration and problems. So you have to decide early on what's important to you. Is it just bragging rights about the money? Or is it having a good life, doing something important, and doing it with people you like? I've talked to so many people in business who tell me, I can't stand the people I work with, but I can't get out of it. And I never had that feeling in the Army, not once.
General, I think we've got time for maybe 2 more questions. Here's another one from some of our students. Just asking you, you've mentioned earlier you've been in any number of countries. Do you have a favorite? If so, why?
We always liked Italy. There's something about the Italian spirit. First of all, they're a lot of fun. There's a lot of history there. And when I was a NATO commander, they were extremely helpful to me during the time we faced the challenges in the Balkans. They didn't excessively go back and worry about regulations and lawyers and so forth. Nothing against lawyers. We never did anything illegal, but somehow the Italians were able to make things come together quickly. And we loved the times we went to Rome. We went to the opera in Milan. Another time we were in St. Peter's Square for Easter and saw the Pope. And we toured the Roman ruins and we drove up and down the coastline. And it's a wonderful country and wonderful people and very pro-American.
General, I'm going to wrap up with one final question. I really like that point you made when you asked your counterpart what was one of the more important characteristics, and persistence was his answer. I'd ask you the same question now for our American students in light of your very distinguished career in military and then in the private sector. What 1 or 2 characteristics or qualities would you recommend our young people develop as they look for an international career, be that in the military or otherwise?
2 things. I always tell my grandchildren who are in high school now, keep your information intake apertures open. In other words, learn as much as you can about everything you can. And most young people are reading, they get Apple News or they're reading stuff online and YouTube or Yahoo, but look at a real newspaper online like the New York Times or the Washington Post. Listen to PBS as well as HBO Max. I watch Netflix a lot, and I've got my favorite soap operas on there like everybody else does, but you gotta learn as much as you can about the world around you and the people around you. And that means not just reading the first paragraph and figuring out what happened to Harry and Meghan and how Harry lost his virginity. That's titillating. It's actually useless. And it's like It's like eating, popcorn. It's not going to do much for you. It doesn't give you much nourishment. So keep your information, eyes and ears open to the world around you. Don't shut down and say, this isn't interesting. If you study it, you'll find it's very interesting. Second thing is, have courage. When you think you should do something, do it. Don't hesitate and be afraid and procrastinate and hope that next year you'll do it better. I'm not talking about personal life decisions like marriage and things like that. You better think those things through because they're lasting. I'm talking about thinking about investigating a career, taking an extra course, applying for a job, and not having to be so afraid of rejection or failure that you hang back. You have to go forward in life, and you have to take those risks to progress in life. And it's just that simple. When we were all cave dwellers back 12,000 years ago, you couldn't sit in the cave. You'd starve. So every father had to teach his son how to hunt, and every mother had to teach the daughter how to clean the game and prepare the food and so forth. And there were prescribed roles, but you had to learn it, and you had to be brave enough to do it, or you die. Today, there's civilization so complicated, roles are so intermixed. There's nothing to keep women from succeeding in the military. And if you're interested in it, do it. We'd love to have you in there. And there's nothing keeping men from being great chefs or homemakers. But here's the thing. You got to have the courage to step forward and make decisions, knowing that the outcome is not certain. It depends on you. And you have to take responsibility for those decisions. So collecting information, learning, making decisions, taking responsibility. That's what it's all about.
That's pure gold, General. Thank you very much, not only for your perspective on international careers, the U.S. military, but your very sound advice on characteristics and qualities that we would all aspire to. Thank you so much again for your time. I'd like to very quickly thank our generous sponsors at the Dennis and Phyllis Washington Foundation, Allegiance, First Interstate Bank, Trail West Bank, QFI, High Stakes Foundation, and the Longview Foundation. And sincere thanks to you, General, for joining us once again. We look forward, by the way, to your return to Montana anytime that would fit into your schedule. Wishing you well. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be with you, and look forward to getting back there. I hope I make it during ski season.
Very good. You're always welcome. Thank you, everybody. Next up is international journalist Matt Volz at 11:30, who was with me and General Clark in the Balkans in 1998, by the way, so he'll have some more stories as well. Thank you, General. Thanks, everybody. See you at 11:30. Bye-bye.